All right, here's part 2 of our trade recaps from all of the live trades we've taken during the RRR challenge. I know I'm way behind. I posted the other one like 3 weeks ago, but we're going to catch up. I swear I'm going to catch up and get all of them done, and then I'm going to start doing them daily as I actually do the trades live. Today, this is for February 3rd. This was a crazy one. It's 2 trades, and it's actually what ultimately caused me to blow 18 accounts and then end up having to do this challenge where I had to eat Carolina Reaper beef jerky while trying to trade. It's worse than I thought. It's like way fucking worse. I'm sure you could tell that was awesome, but yeah, let's just get into it. All right, so the bias coming into the day was bullish. I knew we were pretty overextended from this move up, and we also had technically an SMT at these highs where ES had already swept them, but we had basically relative equal highs, came so close to taking them out on the higher time frame. And then if you check over on ES, even though it's not the same high, once again, just barely missing this high time frame liquidity. And so in my mind, with how strong we were moving up, that's what I'm planning on targeting. However, I did want to wait for us to pull back into the lower 4-hour fair value gap first. So I was expecting us to sell off at open, then try to look for a bounce play. I remember in the moment on stream, a lot of people didn't understand why I would be looking for longs despite how hard we were selling off. But you got to understand, sometimes there's mutually agreed upon draws on liquidity. It's something that Ronan has talked to me a lot about. And it makes sense if you think about it from this context, right? Say we want to continue to be bearish and end up trying to push through this lower 4-hour, wouldn't it still make sense for us to pull back a little bit into an untapped 5-minute or an untapped 15-minute bearish fair value gap to continue lower? Also, if we're going to end up turning around to being bullish, obviously we're going to have to go through those same 5 and 15-minute fair value gaps. So it's a big part of why mech reversals work as well as they do. If you're at a key bounce spot, it can make a ton of sense, even if price looks like it's really heavily going in one direction, to be starting to target trying to catch one of those mech moves to those untapped fair value gaps. So in this instance, after we had tapped into this lower 4-hour fair value gap, I was cool with starting to look for a mech reversal. Even if we weren't going to ultimately end up being bullish for the rest of the day, at the very least, it's still made sense to try and target an untapped 5 or 15-minute. We end up getting this super clean displacement, a super clear 2-minute inverse fair value gap. One candle was all it took. This is exactly what you're usually looking for on this type of entry. Good body close, not a big rejection wick, and it's also the highest time frame inversion on that leg of price. Better than a 1-to-1 RR, so I entered there and instant stop. Now, especially since we had an SMT at this 4-hour with ES not having hit the lower one yet, this is a trade that I still take, I think, every single time. Blake took it too, so that's always a nice reinforcement. Maybe it's not the worst read. However, if there's anything that I could do differently about this trade, and something that I've been studying a lot recently working with Ronan, is the fact that oftentimes when you're trying to catch these reversals after big moves, it can be better to wait for a resweep, just a stop loss hunt that happens after the fact, even if you have tapped into a key level. So it would have been nice to see something like maybe we come up, sweep these lows, basically turn the guys like me who had taken this trade into liquidity and then looking for an inverse to the upside. However, that being said, based on my personal experience, I still think that sometimes when you're hitting key enough levels, such as a 4-hour or high time frame fair value gap, you're not always going to get that stop hunt. And so sometimes if the momentum is there, it's better just to jump right in. And now this was the biggest trading tragedy maybe in history. We got our second setup. It's way cleaner. We're respecting this 15-minute gap. This line was also us filling the 4-hour gap, and there's a 30-minute gap that we had tapped into. On a lower time frame, way cleaner structure for us to try and catch this type of trade. You know, you're not just a falling knife nuking. You got some consolidation with some highs generated to try and target underneath an untapped 15-minute gap. Just a much cleaner mech idea. And with that generated liquidity, my favorite type of break even as well, which is the relative equal highs, an accumulation zone, whatever you want to call it. Super clean. If you're going to get a clean inverse down here off of a key level, it makes it so much easier to try and take this type of trade, because you know at the very least there's a super high probability that you're going to end up hitting your break even. Super good RR as well. We jumped in there on that 1-minute clean inversion. But here's the mistake I made. I was still getting used to streaming, okay? I was not used to it all the way yet. I was distracted. We were already down a good chunk of bread from that first trade on the accounts. I miscalculated my leverage. From miscalculating my leverage, this happened. Terrible news. I miscalculated the leverage. The accounts are blown. They're out of there. Oh my God. This is so fucked up. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say right now. This is the worst thing that's ever happened ever in history. Whew, yeah, I'm unfazed. I actually don't care at all. So yeah, absolute tragedy. I couldn't even describe to you what I was feeling in that moment. It was one of a kind, something I'll never forget. The idea is pretty much the same type of deal though, a 15-minute or 5-minute mech reversal play off of a high time frame level, especially when you've got that low time frame liquidity generated, beautiful structure. It was a great one. This one, maybe I'd say like an A minus ish. It's not A plus just because you're ending without a resweep of the lows. And normally, if you're going to end up taking a trade like that, without the resweep of the lows, then you'd want to have an SMT ideally on ES, but neither of them had taken this low. However, with the momentum, with this break even structure built up, it was a trade that I was still happy to take. And plus, at that point, we hadn't had any pullbacks into any 5 or 15 minutes, which again, it's like when price is expanding that way, it still makes sense for us to pull back into a 5 or 15 minute at some point. That was kind of the idea behind it. But yeah, we got clapped. I've got basically the whole month of February to catch up on. I'm going to do the breakdowns. I'm kind of trying to decide whether or not I should just knock them all out in one video or a bunch of short form videos where I go through each trade. However, either way, once we get through those, I'm going to be uploading daily every single trade recap that I end up taking, breaking down the sauce from Pat, Blake, Ronan, and any of the other guys who end up helping me. And I'm super excited. You can join the Discord in the bio. That's where I live trade every single day. It's been a great time. We're back to being funded now, making bread. It's going to get crazy.